Good afternoon. My name is Ramunia Matulovskaite, and we're with Army Corps of Engineers Nashville District. I'm the project manager for Harpeth River, Franklin, Tennessee floodproofing project. This video is actually not the actual meeting recording. Our original one failed, some technical difficulties. So I'm going to be re-recording the same exact presentation so that everybody can get a similar experience and go through the same slides, and I'll answer the same questions as well. Without further ado, let's move on. As you all know, this is our project area. You all familiar with some of the neighborhoods already, mainly Lancaster, Evenville, Crafton Avenue, Daniels Drive, and a few others who are going to be eligible to participate in this project. And y'all receive that information in the project guide. Now, these few slides that I'm going to be breezing through pretty quickly, they are here to give you just a general overview of what the steps are, so we have in our minds the beginning and the end of this project. And then I'll dive deeper into some of these as we go further along. So the first step is for everyone to apply to the program, and the copy of the application is included in your project guide. That application is also a right of entry form, and we do ask that you provide a copy of your deed as well. Then our real estate office receives that information and verifies that you do own a home, and they process it, they accept it. That is also step number 3. Another step after that is we will then tell you to go ahead and solicit 3 estimates and submit to us. At the same time, we will be making a site visit to your house. That way we know and look at the same thing that the contractor will be looking at, and then we will be basing our independent government estimate on the information we'll collect. Once those 2 steps are completed, we compare our estimate, which we call IGE, with what the owner submitted, the bids they got from the contractors. Then the owner will be negotiating with a contractor based on that IGE, which we will provide to you, the owner. Once that number is negotiated and everybody is agreeing on it, then the next step would be 2 agreements to sign. The city and the owner must sign a floodproofing cost sharing agreement where the owners will be supplying 17.5% on all the floodproofing costs associated with the project. Once that is in place, all 3 entities, Corps of Engineers, USAID, city, and the owner will sign another final floodproofing agreement. After that, the owner is free to hire the contractor. Once the contractor is hired, the first order of business is to have a pre-construction meeting on site with both the owner and the contractor to go over the project details to make sure we're not missing anything, and we discuss who's responsible for what lines of communication and order of business, essentially, steps going forward. Also, contractor must obtain permits, or all of them associated with the project, and should there be additional work done at the site, any additional permits associated with that. But right now we identify that everybody will need at least floodplain development permits because you need elevation certificates during construction, and then at the end, which is very important, also any kind of building permits and anything else that if you're doing any additional. Now, once the construction is ongoing, there'll be inspections by City of Franklin, mostly codes, and they'll have to sign off during different steps of the project, and they will sign off on the final inspection as well. And then we will do one joint final between the Corps of Engineers and the city and sign off on that. After that, we are ready to proceed to closing, which will involve bringing in an invoice from the contractor, elevation certificate, and all the inspections passed, any documentation of that. At the closing, our real estate office will release a check jointly payable to both contractor and the homeowner, and a covenant will be recorded at that point, which will restrict any kind of habitation in that space above the home. And after that, we will finalize the project by submitting the final costs and turn everything over, completion-related documents to the City of Franklin. So timeline. Right now, we are in this first column here, and I'm pointing at, in the fiscal year 2021, and the Corps of Engineers fiscal year starts on October 1st. We already had a meeting with the contractors in March. We held the meeting with the homeowners in April, on April 19th, during the same webinar as I'm recording here now. We're also receiving and approving applications. There's really no drop dead deadline, but would like to at least get these in for the first group of anybody who's interested and ready to proceed between April and May, and then we'll work on receiving bids in May, signing floodproofing agreements between both the city and the Corps in June, and idea would be to start construction in July and continue into September, doing closings and payments in August, October. But all this really depends how fast all the parties are moving in getting their steps accomplished. And hopefully in FY22, we'll do the same thing again, at least the second group of people, because our funding should arrive at the new FY as well. And we'll move in with receiving applications sometime November, December, then bids in January, agreements in February, and then construction in March, May, closing payment May, June. The schedule is flexible. We're really going to have to work with what the federal funding is available and city's funding available. That also depends on the homeowners and how everyone's proactive. This is our hope that we can plan this out the way it is, but if it's not, we'll be flexible and adjust, because at this point we don't even know how many of you will choose to participate in these ratings. And now I'm going to deep dive into a little bit more detailed information, especially things I want to point out and make sure we don't miss it. So application, those are very important. That application is also a right of entry form. That allows us to go visit your property, be on it, take notes, and do that initial site visit. Therefore, make sure you don't forget to sign it on the other side. The form is provided to you or was mailed to you via mail with the project guide. Also, feel free to email me, contact. I'll provide information later. I can email that form in digital form if you wish to, and anything else in digital form as well. We do need a copy of your deed, and if you cannot locate one in the city of Franklin, point of contact, which you have in your project guide, it would be able to help with that. Also, we do ask that you submit it by email preferably, because it's just faster and easy at this point. A lot of us work from home. And if you do mail it, please email or call me to let me know that it's coming, so we are on the lookout and we don't miss it. So once we have the application and everything goes through well, it gets approved, our real estate office will contact you and we will determine the date for a site visit, which will be really looking at what is the scope of specific floodproofing requirements to your property. We'll look at foundation, any exterior features. Do you have stairs, porches, how big they are, gutters, ramps, where is your HVAC, any landscaping features, if you have big trees near the home, would they need to be removed, or pretty much anything that's related to your house and around it that may impede or help with this floodproofing. Using that information, we'll prepare a general scope of work and technical criteria document, and we'll give it to you to use that communicating to your contractors when you do get when you solicit their proposals, just to make sure that both parties are on the same page and we understand what needs to be done. We will also use that information to prepare independent government estimates, what, based on that, we'll think will cost to floodproof of your home. Now, important things about proposals and estimates. We do provide a list of interested contractors and then your project guide at the end. However, you are free to choose any contractor you like, as long as they're licensed to practice in the state of Tennessee. We do ask for at least 3. However, we understand that it may be hard to get all 3 to respond, but please at least ask for 3 proposals, and that way it gives us more chance to compare across the multiple ones. And if you get 2 of them back, great, submit those. But please at least try for 3. That would be very helpful to everyone to make sure we get the good price. Contractor proposal worksheet. This is also important. It is provided in the project guide, and I can send a digital version as well if it makes it easier. the Corps, will use the same worksheet to develop our estimates, and if the contractor submitted on that worksheet, it makes it easier for everybody to compare apples to apples across the different proposals. And also to make sure that they include not only flood-proofing construction costs in there, but their overhead and profit, and your temporary housing costs will be part of that contract as well. And also they need to be based on your family size, and generally average hotel pricing in the area might dictate that. But also in the guide, there's a spot that talks about it, and especially make sure that you don't shortchange yourself, because staying outside the home is always more expensive than inside your home. And if you don't have a mortgage, you may think, oh, it only cost me X amount of dollars a month to stay here, but when you stay out of your house, it's going to be a lot more. So definitely this is worth to think through anything that you may need while you're out of the house. The hotel costs, parking, just think through that. Also, if you do choose to do any additional work while your house is being listed, say with the same contractor, you need to make sure that the cost is separated out, because that is done at the owner's expense. We cannot incorporate that together. So it needs to be separated out in the cost proposal. Also, we do ask to see it just to make sure it does not interfere with the flood-proofing work, and based on what are you planning on doing, and it may affect the timeline of the project also. So that the number of days we allot for this work may have to change. So we just ask you to submit that too, so we know what's happening. And also it's important that you, the owner, need to submit proposals to us, not the contractors, because it'll be very hard to track whose proposal is what and where if contractors send them directly to us. And also submit only those proposals from the contractors you actually like and would want to hire. If you receive something you do not like, or you don't like the contractor, you don't have to submit them if you don't intend using them. And another note, also make sure before you ask for those estimates, ask if they're free, because we cannot pay for estimates or proposals. Now, important information for the pre-agreement. We compare those proposals to our IG, a government estimate, and we will provide you a number that helps you to negotiate with a contractor within a certain range. Once you settle on a number with a contractor, then you approach the city of Franklin and you'll sign an agreement with them to cost share the 17.5% part with them. Essentially, you reimburse them for that. So that's why it is important to know that number, so that math can be figured out. Once that is done and you have the agreement signed, you provided the funds to the city then gives us a go-ahead to finalize the flood-proofing agreement between all of us, the city, the Corps, and the homeowners. Well, once we sign an agreement, you are free to hire the contractor. Now, a few more details regarding the contract. There's just a list of what would you need to be aware of and ask the contractor while you negotiated. Ask them about any liability insurance, warranties, liens, who's going to pay for what damages, should there be any. Also check their references. And don't forget to discuss who pays for utilities while you are out doing construction, especially if the contractor plans on using them, such as gas, water, electricity, because we cannot reimburse for those. Also, any kind of disconnected utilities for flood proofing may require building code upgrades prior to reconnection. Those that are needed because of flood proofing will be included in the project. However, anything in addition to that will not. So please make sure you discuss that with the contractor so that nobody has surprises at the end. And we do ask that you provide us with your construction contract prior to initiation of construction, because we just want to make sure that it has sufficient information and everybody's protected and good to go. There's 3 items we do require to have in your contract. This is the required language. Paragraph number 1 really deals with making sure that we have access to the paperwork and accounting related to projects so that we can actually make the payment at the end and do the audit on all that. We also ask that the contractor accomplishes the work based on the scope of work we provide and agrees with the end goal of this project, raising the homes or certain elevation. And the third paragraph deals with the duration of the construction. We ask typically for 60 days. However, that is not set in stone, and it would be negotiated on case-by-case basis because we do understand that some of you will be doing additional work that may not be accomplished in 60 days. But these three items we'd like to see in a contract because that just helps to protect everybody. Now, once you sign that contract and you're ready to go, we will hold a pre-construction meeting with us on site, city, and the homeowner. And that is important because during that meeting, it helps to understand who communicates with who, who's responsible for what, at what points inspections need to happen, and just it's good to put face-to-face also together to know who to call and contact, and just lays out, I think, that makes the process go smoother. So it's very important we schedule that one and we have it with everyone on site. And it may answer a lot of questions that contractor may have that maybe didn't have a chance to clarify before. For the completion with 60 days, as I mentioned before, it can be negotiated due to additional work maybe that could mess up that time frame. So we are flexible. We also do ask to ensure that both homeowner and the contractor are okay with the Corps or the City of Franklin accessing your property for inspection, and that does not interfere with moving forward. Also, and that is something important, that the homeowner and the contractor make sure that the costs are kept separate from what is directly related to floodproofing and any additional work we do, because that will be the basis for our payment at the end, and we need to make sure we have those costs separated. We also do require elevation certificate at the end. However, City of Franklin floodplain development permit requires 3 of them, before the construction, during, and post. So contractor needs to make sure to coordinate with the city those specific points when they need to be done and what inspections need to be done. At the end, the final elevation certificate would matter the most because that will be the proof of your home raised to a specific elevation that was needed for the project. And this elevation certificates need to be signed by a registered land surveyor and engineer and prepared by FEMA guidelines. That definitely, this is keeping a separate cost accounting records and keeping track of your elevation certificates, probably one of the 2 key takeaways from that construction aspect here that I have outlined. Now, we do know that things happen and sometimes change orders are required. In that case, please coordinate everything with Corps of Engineers first, as soon as the change is identified. That needs to be approved prior to initiating the change because we have to make sure that it is part of the floodproofing and will be approved for that cost increase, should there be any. If it doesn't get coordinated, approved, and at the end, if it's deemed not part of floodproofing, that will be at your own expense. These few slides down here, from now on, I will go through really quickly just to give a general overview at what it may look like when they do raise your home, because someone has never seen it. So it might be interesting just to know what to expect. And these projects were done in a different part of the country, and pictures were taken from the other side. So at the beginning, here's a picture of the house. During the site visit, this is what we're going to do. We'll look at the existing conditions. So in this instance, the basement will be checked where the HVAC unit is. There's 2 trees right here. They have a porch, stairway. All that will be inventoried. Utilities checked and all that. So that's the first step. Then during construction, here's what it's going to first look like when the contractor evacuates the property. They disconnect all utilities, and they'll prepare the house for lifting. So all the decks will be removed, the awnings will be supported, and vegetation around the house. If it was interference, you see trees are gone, they'll be removed. Then the raising of the structure happens, if you see in these two pictures of these big steel beams and then hydraulic lift. A lot of people ask, do they need to remove content from the home? No, you don't. You can leave everything up there. They lift these homes so precisely that all the pictures remain hanging on the walls. Unless you feel strongly about an item you have and you're really afraid to damage it, please remove it from the wall or secure. But other than that, everything can remain in the home as is. So once these jacks lift up the home, it is put on these cribbings to support it, and then foundation will be built around it. So that's also an important step. And I know City of Franklin will have inspections during this step as well. Then, of course, if your HVAC unit was on the ground floor where the flooding happens, it'll be elevated to a proper level. Septic tanks or anything sewer related will be dealt with as well. And all the decks that you had previously, stairwells, anything will be rebuilt. You'll get the same square footage you had back. If there are any ramps needed, those will be included as well. Basically, you want to make sure that everything is ADA compliant if possible. And we'll look at, if it's not possible to build it to a certain level, then all options will be looked at. But you shouldn't lose any features you had before. And the final product may look something like that. The idea is to build a home higher, of course, but it not look like it's been on the same block. Try to make the brick blend and look like a normal home. So now some more important information at what happens at the end of the project. When your home is raised, it's finished, the inspections are signed off, and our final inspection is done to verify the final elevation. At that point, the homeowner initiates the closing. You'll contact our real estate office to set up a date, and what documents needed at the closing that are very important are your completion certificate, which will be signed by the Corps and the City of Franklin. You will need your final elevation certificate, a detailed invoice showing costs for floodproofing, and if there's anything extra that needs to be separated. Also, we will be signing floodproofing covenants, which prohibits habitation below that elevated floor. You can use it for storage, but definitely not for human habitation. So that needs to be recorded and signed. And a check will be issued jointly payable to owner and a contractor at the closing. And here are the points of contact for you to ask any questions or coordinate any kind of work related to this project. I'm Ramunia Maturovskaya, the project manager. You have my two numbers here in the email. Bill Avant is the realty specialist. He'll be heavily involved in the project and be coordinating and setting up dates for site visits and the closing especially. So two of us will jointly work with you during this project pretty heavily. The City of Franklin point of contact is William Banks. He works for the engineering department. He's going to be assisting and heavily involved in this as well, so feel free to contact him. So all of us in here available via email or phone. I did ask for questions prior to the meeting to be emailed to me, so I got some, and I'm going to go over here in this presentation right now. Question number one was to explain the cost for housing over and above cost of staying in your home, and that sentence came from the project guide, and that just was to highlight that, again, cost of staying away is usually higher than staying in your home, and if you didn't know how to estimate, a lot of people just think, oh, I'm just going to add up my utilities, my bills for the month, and everything it costs me to live in a home, and use that as a number in their contract with the contractor. But sometimes it's just a lot more. They come up short just because staying out is always more expensive. And this is really what that meant, to make sure that you account for everything. And usually the best place to start is with the average cost of the hotel in your area, and then multiplying that by the number of days and thinking what else you would need while you are out. Do they charge for parking? and any other related costs. Number 2, the space under the home can be used for a garage, stairway up into the house, elevator shaft. So if you already had in a garage, it will still remain garage. The doors will be adjusted for the height, and all the other adjustments will be made. So it will remain a garage. If you have stairs to get inside your home from the garage, those will be extended and accommodations were made for that. There is a possibility, and some homeowners do choose to elevate it higher and make it into a garage underneath your home if you didn't have one. However, any additional work besides what we identify for floodproofing that was needed would be at your own expense. So it is possible. You just have to be willing to take up that additional cost. If your home currently has stairway or porch or anything, basically, you'll be modified and added back on, no square footage lost. We may add ramps if there are people needing them to meet the ADA requirements. Elevators are typically considered a betterment, and that would be, again, cost difference would be at the owner's expense, unless there's just no other way for us to provide to meet the ADA requirements, and then we can't, the ramp's unreasonable or anything else that we think is unreasonable, then we may consider an elevator. But that really, this would be more of a case-by-case basis. Question number 3, I have a large deck. Will the same square footage be included? Yes. The intent is to not provide anything less than what you have. So yes, everything that was taken out for the home listing will be built back up, just higher. And question number 4, I have 2 large trees that will have to be removed. Is this included? Yes. Any cost associated with floodproofing work, if it's tree removal or anything else, yes, that would be included. And I believe then a replacement cost for those 2 trees might be included as well, because we would have to fix all the landscaping that was messed up during the construction. So that cost is also included. Number 5, there's a speculation among my neighbors that those homes that were damaged in the March 28th flooding will be given priority in the schedule of home raising. True. There are a couple homes with displaced residents due to the recent flooding. The city didn't ask us to expedite the process for them, just to help them get back in their homes faster. However, anybody else will proceed based on ability to sign the agreement with the city and provide the 17.5% cost match, because that is really the first step at to entering into the final agreement with the USAs and Corps. We need to get a green light from the city saying, yes, they're ready, go ahead. So really, all the others will proceed at their speed. And whoever's first to sign the agreement, they'll proceed first. Has there been provisions made for an architect to advise on ways to improve the curb appeal of our homes after the lift? Our homes will look very bad just lifted on the rectangle box. You can definitely discuss any outside finishes with your contractor, and typically the exterior finish, as I mentioned in the earlier slides, any siding or brick would be extended down to its original level to match the previous style. We do want the homes to look nice and blend in and match their neighborhood, definitely not eyesores. It is not our intent to just set it on a big, high foundation and just plop it there and really be an eyesore. No, that's definitely not an intent. So any proper outside finishes to make it look appealing and blend in, you can definitely discuss that with the contractor, and we'll definitely work with everyone depending on what is desired there. But typically, what was already on your home as an exterior finish would be extended down to the normal level where your foundation is at. And so this really concludes the presentation. We did get a few questions online, and I tried to address them this time as I was talking through the slides. The only thing I didn't mention, there was one question somebody asked if they can build a hill or fill and then set the home on that to be higher and essentially avoid the lifting part. However, Cedar Franklin said that would violate the floodplain development permit rules and really cause problems to your neighbors as far as drainage and water conveyance. So that would not be allowed. And I believe that would be all the points I wanted to make in this presentation. And again, feel free to contact me or Bill if you have any questions going further. And thank you so much. And we're looking forward to working with you.